Welcome to the Dignity Dialogue with your host, Joe Kiedinger.
Hi, everyone. The Dignity Dialogue with Joe Kiedinger and April Strom Johnson.
Hello.
Hey, we're a little giddy today because we get to we're in a series on ethical leadership and integrity, and we're going to talk about ethical dilemmas. I don't know. My wife watches these shows all the time of ethical dilemmas. I'm like, why do you watch that show of that guy that killed the woman? It's like 48 hours. You know, I mean, it's like, why do you enjoy watching a show about a family member that died? Well, when she doesn't know about that, she just loves the mystery of it.
Oh, yeah. I love a good drama.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk
drama.
about that type of.
It's not going to be that much
today.
drama.
So I want to kick us off, April, by reading definitions, okay? By reading how this was researched from scu.edu. It says ethical leadership means both acting ethically and setting the standard for others to do as well. Leaders have an opportunity to inspire others not only to do the right thing, but also to consider the kind of people they want to be. That's deep. Now here's the second. Ethical leadership promotes trust, integrity, and accountability in the workplace. Even more, when people are constantly surrounded by this environment, they tend to transfer these characteristics into their everyday lives. Ethical leadership and dilemma.
Yeah, I would say the biggest dilemma is that everything seems to be ethical. I don't know if that's
or unethical.
Or unethical.
Everything's under the guise.
Everything is under the ethical element. I think that in and of itself might be a dilemma. That's just me.
I love this idea of inspiring people to do the right thing, but also to consider the kind of people they want to be, and that it promotes an environment that tends to transfer characteristics to their everyday lives. So let's just say you're a leader who's unethical. Let's say you're a leader who's distrusting. You will breed people who become that.
Right.
Does that make sense? What goes around comes around.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so now let's talk about certain dilemmas. Would you or wouldn't you?
Oh, goodness. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Wait. There's no way I can be fired for this, is it?
No.
Okay. All right, go.
Would you? We have different
teasing.
associates who
I'm
gave us
just
different
kidding.
scenarios. And I think, April, you might have one yourself as we go here. Scenario number one. You own a restaurant. Okay? And it's a great restaurant. People come to it. Right?
Yeah.
And a certain customer has disrespected, and in your minds, unethically, poor treatment of one of your waiters or waitresses. Okay? So a customer, poor treatment of one of your waitress or one of your waiters. And the question is, would you or wouldn't you, as an owner, would you take the stance of, well, the customer's always right. They just spent $500. Okay? The customer you've seen more than once, so they're not very first time, but they're not there all the time. Let's just say that. But when they do come, they come in large groups. And let's just say they come maybe 4 times a year, just so we set it up. But when they come, they drop $500-$600. And even for the waiter, they tip okay. I mean, they're not like, the waiter's making like, let's say $70. However, this group is mistreating whatever waiter or waitress they have.
And
right?
they mistreat him every time? Every time they come in?
Well,
is this the first time?
Yeah, there've been digs. There's been some history. Some not hugely bad. Some, but this particular case, it was bad. Okay. So my question: you have a dilemma. So now you go out to the table. Are you kicking them out and telling them never to come again in front of the rest of the restaurant, whoever can hear them? What is your dilemma? Knowing you're going to. Knowing the situation, what would you do?
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I will lose money no matter what. Because if I continue to allow customers to treat my employee and my employees like that, they won't want to work for me. and then they leave, and I'm bringing in new people, right? Or this particular customer leaves, and I don't get their $500 or $600 every time that they come in the door. And I would very kindly and graciously ask them to leave.
Okay. So
Without
there you
a
go.
doubt.
Now, if you look at this second part of the equation, I put ethical leadership promotes trust, integrity, and accountability in the workplace. Even more when people are constantly surrounded by this environment, they tend to transfer those characteristics into their everyday lives, right? So you're building trust by doing that.
Yep.
Now, especially if you had core values that said, we're not going to mistreat each other.
Right.
And then you allow that to happen over and over again. Now, let me ask you this. It happened once. You've never seen these people. They're kind of new, and it's borderline disrespectful, but maybe people have a bad day. I mean, how tolerant would you be?
Well, certainly, I think the first time that it happens, I'm probably more tolerant of it. I would probably have a conversation with with my waiter, and take their perspective into account.
Yep.
Like, I don't appreciate the way that they're treating you. I think they didn't learn manners when they were little.
You're right.
Right. And so let's teach them, and let's kind of teach them with that kindness initially. And do you want the tip?
Yeah.
We're not on the first time. I mean, I know it's, but
I know you're sitting with $100 in front of you.
wait,
Do you want it?
waiters and waitresses get
You know,
paid small amounts of money. So, do you want the tip? I'd probably have the conversation and make the decision based off of that. The likelihood is that I would mention it. I would ask them, hey, it'd be great if you could be a little kinder to my wait staff. I would appreciate that. They may not come back based on that, and I'd be okay with that.
Yep. Okay. I don't know if this falls into the DEI category. I don't know. You'd have to let me know.
Oh, boy.
DEI is big.
Okay.
I'm not sure how this would fall in. Or, okay. So, a executive coach, let's just say me.
Asking for a friend?
Let's just say me, okay?
Okay.
All right. Has an executive cabin that we take people on retreat.
Sure.
Okay, so basically the head of the business or the head of the department goes with a coach up to the cabin for an overnight. Okay, where they really get away from it all, dive into things, set a plan, a course for next year. It's a strategy session.
Yeah.
Okay. And you do it with every executive. Okay, that's how you typically do it. Unless it's a female executive. So bringing a female executive up to a male coach's cabin. Ethical?
Sure.
Not ethical? Following this?
Yep. Following this definition, I may be falling more into, and we talked about this a little bit when we were preparing, a little more into moral. Is it part of my personal moral?
Personal
right,
moral code.
that I'm looking at versus ethical. But I would say, unless you plan to take another woman with you, or, if you will, a chaperone, so to speak, what they used to call them back in the day, right? I think it is not a good idea.
Yeah.
To take someone, particularly a client, ethically, it feels icky.
Yeah. And it doesn't also depend on if people are single or married or other people are at stake here.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's not just considering, it might be a depends thing, depending on where those two individuals are in their life, right? What that relationship is like, and if you have a significant other.
Right. I mean, you taking your significant other up to the cabin with you and a female executive,
Sure.
I probably wouldn't even bat an eye,
course.
right? Because it's completely different.
Right.
It's completely different. And does that mean that the two people that are going up are terrible, awful people? They can't be trusted. They're going to just fall into some, weird cabin, thing.
Yeah.
No. And yet that's not enough to put into position what your ethics say about it.
Right. Okay. Next scenario.
Okay.
And because we're close to it, right? Because I am the coach, and
Yep.
you are the coach,
Yep.
and we do have this property. So that's pretty close. But let's go a little further away. Let's
Okay.
go further away from our little microcosm of what we know. Okay, you work for a large media company. It doesn't matter. But you work for a large company in
Okay.
this scenario, right? And you're asked to go meet with a client, and it's a male and a female executive flying off to go see the client. I mean, that happens all the time.
Right.
Is that unethical? Is that part of your job? Is that responsibility?
Right.
Like, where does that fall then?
I think that is probably the most realistic,
Yeah, that's very
right?
common.
That's very common.
That's very common.
And I think for me, that does not fall as unethical. Now, here's where it's a little different for me. And I'm married. I have a husband.
As
Hey, Bruce, you rock.
I have a wife.
Yep, Danica, she's awesome. And I have conversations with my husband about those kinds of things before I leave to go on business trips. Because, not because I think he doesn't trust me, but because I care enough, I think, about our relationship to be really open and be really forward in those kinds of situations, so that there is no guess, there is no chance for something to be written, for a story to kind of happen. And so I think it is okay. I fly someplace. I need to meet with a client. I like to meet in very public places. I actually prefer that. It doesn't mean that you can't meet at their office or at the company during normal company office hours.
But there's often dinner.
Right? There's
with
dinner,
a client,
right? Like you're entertaining.
Yes.
You're all those kinds of things, and I think that that's very appropriate in public settings.
Yeah.
And so for myself, as a female in particular, I think it's just a better option. It puts everything on the table, and you can be open about everything, and it's just good business. For me, it's just good business.
So maybe too, and I think this is done mostly, but I could be wrong because I don't have every company in America how we do things, but a job description of what's required before that person's hired, to me, would be very helpful. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I didn't know I'd be traveling. Right, is one thing. Or, no, I'm signing up for this position, and you're going to be traveling possibly 4 or 5 times a year. This is the team you'll be traveling with. This is why we travel, what we do on travel, and this is how it works. Mm-hmm. Right? To know the rules.
Just to know the rules.
And as a person of your own integrity, before you would take a job, if you have a significant other who has a challenge with that, that's something you have to take upon yourself to have that dialogue for your own integrity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
I think that's just part of life.
Yes, that's part of life.
It's part of relationships.
Part of moral maturity. Part of having the conversation.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah,
Healthy
I would totally
conversation.
agree. I think that whole element of social responsibility.
Yeah.
That's one of the things listed as an ethical dilemma is social responsibility. We can find ourselves a great example. Would you or would you not? Right? Here we go.
Oh, my turn?
Your turn. Ready?
Okay.
Social media. This will be great. Social media.
Is that one guy going to burst in here who does would you or wouldn't you? I forget his name. Go ahead.
I can't think of his name.
Social media.
Okay, social media, right? So you have group texts, you have group chats, you have chat thing. I can't think of what it's called.
You're on it all the time.
Snapchat.
No,
that's
not Snapchat.
Like a Snapchat.
Oh, that's social media stuff. I was
so all
thinking
these
Slack.
social. Oh, I love Facebook, all that kind of stuff, right? But like a Snapchat, and everybody's on that Snapchat from work that you work with, right? And so 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night, whatever it is, right? People are Snapchatting. Right. And conversations are being had and things are being said and right. And you're looking at it and you're thinking, oh, I'd like to be social. And I'm the leader.
Yeah. Ethical leadership. That's what this is about. Ethical leadership, not just ethics in general.
Right.
See,
are you jumping on?
matter of fact, I won't even participate in social media with employees. I mean, I'm not saying I won't read a Facebook post or that sort of thing, but if it came to having a streak or something that's clearly a friendship thing, right? Especially as an owner of a business, I wouldn't participate in that. Now, it's easy for me to say because I'm not into those kinds of things, period, right? However, I know Danica, who sees Facebook a lot and is involved in Facebook a lot, loves to read and loves to be informed of all the wonderful things employees are doing with their family and so forth. But I do think there's boundaries, and I think we have to be clear on what are the boundaries. We talk about ethical leadership.
Yeah.
And setting those boundaries is understanding, going back to our last episode or to one of our other episodes where we talked about this is a contract, right? A contract. It's great to be friendly. It's great to have friendships. And we're under a contract of responsibility, living our core values. And I think we go back to the core values when you have a lot of these questions.
Yeah. Which is a great point.
Yeah. Go back to the core values to be your guide. If you have solid core values, my guess is you'll find something in there that you would know not cool.
Yeah.
And also think of the other relationships in your life too, just what we talked about.
Right.
That could be, you're getting all friendly with, all these inter-work relationships that we just have to be, we don't want to participate in anything that causes confusion.
Yeah, I like that. And when there's always this dilemma, and this is something that comes up a lot when we coach.
Yeah.
Either things were said, something happened that really didn't happen at work, but it happened with folks from work.
Yes.
Right? Or something was said over social, and then it got carried away, and now we have a dilemma
situation,
right? And you're like, oh, you talk about it, and I know we talked about it in one of our early episodes, but I think back to the take the bait thing, right?
You took the bait.
And you took the bait, and now you're wrapped up in the middle of this thing, and you're going, I wish that I could get out, right?
Yeah.
And it happens more than we probably care to admit that it happens, but this is something that we talk about a lot in coaching with people. They want to be close with the people they work with. They want to be close with their leaders. Their leaders want to be vulnerable with the people that they lead. And is it still okay to have boundaries?
Yeah. It's okay to have boundaries. Boundaries are healthy, folks. Boundaries are healthy. And I would also say when conversing, one of my barometers is, would I be ashamed to show this to any employee that I just sent this message to someone? And no matter how I communicate. Like, let's say I was communicating with you, right? And let's say, and this never happens, but let's say I was frustrated with you, right? Okay.
You're kind.
How I would communicate that, let's say to Danica, I wouldn't be afraid for you to see it.
Yeah.
Like as a litmus test, it's never personal. It's about a thing. It's about a this. It's about a that. And I think, and that's when you say take the bait. Pairing.
Yes.
Right? When employees pair, and you can easily suck someone in from a frustration to a personal attack on someone's character. And that, to me, is an ethical boundary. For me, ethical leadership is the behavior we want to see, is not backstabbing, pairing, being rude, communicating frustrations in a personal attack mode,
right?
Versus just a factual.
Yeah, because it doesn't, and we said it earlier, it doesn't build trust, right?
Right.
It doesn't build integrity. It doesn't build accountability in the workplace. Like if it doesn't build any of those things, then it's tearing them down.
That's right. So it's that type of communication behind people's back that's belittling, and if it is or not. If you receive something, right? And taking the bait then would be you going, oh yeah, like the time they did this, or allowing yourself to be a part of a conversation that when you see it, That's what taking the bait means, just to give a
Right.
context to that, right? Someone's, can you believe this? And you start participating and pairing with them.
Yeah.
That's the destruction of ethics, in my opinion, and it goes totally against the behaviors you want to see. So we have to really check ourselves.
Before you wreck yourself.
Yes, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Friends.
That's
that is
fun.
It's huge. And we talk a little bit
Dilemmas.
about the dilemmas. What does it look like moving forward in this area of ethical leadership, right? Do we see trends? I think we certainly do in some areas, like diversity, understanding. We're not all the same people. We
Yep.
don't have the same beliefs. We come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different cultures, like all those things. And what one thing might mean to somebody in our American culture, if you will,
Right.
might mean something very different, right, to somebody else from a different culture. And so just that, having that heightened awareness about it, I don't want to be super like, oh my goodness, what is that? Is it this? Are we okay? Are we ethical? Is this okay? Is this okay? But it is hard sometimes for folks to kind of start the conversation around ethics,
Right.
and this whole idea of being ethical with people and
Right.
asking a question. I remember the first time somebody came up to me and said to me, "Can I ask you a question about your hair?" Okay.
Yeah.
Now I have no idea what it looks like today, but when my hair gets long, it gets really, really curly because my mother is Caucasian and my father is African, and so I have this mix. It's fabulous mix.
Perfect.
Of this great hair, and people like to touch it. And I know that some people would say, "Wow, that is so inappropriate."
Yeah.
But for me, I say, "Wow, what a great opportunity to teach."
Well, that's emotional intelligence.
Right? That's the difference.
You've been around the block. You've worked on yourself for so long, and I admire that about you. And so I can see you going, "Oh, I have a teaching
"Yeah, of
opportunity here."
And they go, "Oh my gosh." And and they go, "How does it get like that?" Which is a total door open, right?
Yeah.
For me to say, "Well, actually, my mother is Caucasian and my father is from Africa. And so this is the beautiful mix that I have." And they go, "Wow, that is so amazing." And then that starts the conversation. But I don't think we can ever get to a place where we all feel comfortable just being us if we can't get to a place where we feel comfortable asking.
That's a great point.
We have to
Yeah.
be comfortable asking.
Yeah, and it just reminded me. I was just doing a executive session with a group of executives who I really haven't met. Okay, so the owner had me come in and do this experiment with dignity, and it's funny because in the very first session, I wear hats. So I often wear hats. I don't with this contraption on my head, but I would like to hats. Okay, and so I have this hat. It's summertime at the time, and this guy looks at me and goes, "So what's with the hat?" Just like that. So what's with the hat? And I said, "Well, you're going to find out through our examination of dignity."
What
Right?
hat?
Instead of, "What do you mean, what's up with the hat?"
That's right.
What's up with your hat? I'm not wearing a hat. You know what I mean? Like we
Right.
get this defensive vibe.
Yep.
And then when I showed him my number one motivation is unique, I went back to that gentleman, which was like, halfway through this time together. I said, "Now, you asked me what's up with the hat. What do you think?" Looking at my top 5 dignity traits. Now they've had like the background of
Yeah.
what motivates me
Yeah.
and what drives me. And he goes, "You're unique." I'm like, that's why the hat.
Yep.
That's the only reason. It's because I just like unique things, and so that's another example of how we can respond. We have to be open to having
do.
people approach us wrong.
Yes.
Right?
I love and
They just approached us wrong.
Yep. And it happens.
Yep. And in my head, he's going, "Wow, it's a fascinating hat. Where'd you get it?" It just came out as, "What's up with the hat?" Right? So to your point, being able to receive, what you consider that's a dumb question or that's a terrible way to approach it, which is a judgment, right? We can't put ourselves into judgment on them if we're going to help the cause get
Right.
better. We have to accept the fact that they asked it in this way could be based on ignorance, right? Could be
Sure.
for all different kinds of reasons, could be immaturity, however they bring it up. But you always have a choice in how you're going to respond.
I like
You
that.
always have a choice.
Yep, we do.
And we can decide, like you said, what a wonderful learning opportunity we have here. Right? And you give them the background. And
I've met some of the coolest people by them asking
Yes.
just odd questions to me, or I'll be speaking somewhere and I'll say, being an African American woman, and
Yeah.
inevitably somebody will come up to me afterwards and say, I had no idea
right.
that you were. And some people can find that very offensive.
Right.
Right. And I just find that as a wonderful opportunity to start a conversation, to start a dialogue. It's okay that they didn't know. And it's okay that they said it out
Yes.
loud to me respectfully. That's different than some of the other
Yeah.
ways that sometimes people might bring things to our attention, certainly. But we have to get past the uncomfortable space that we are in a little bit these days, to really learn and grow about each other and who we are, and then we come down to this idea of knowing and accepting.
Yes.
Knowing and accepting.
And it's up to us. We have complete control of how we receive information, and we can turn it into a positive and not make it this judgmental negative. So here are some things we've learned. Talk straight and with respect, like in the example of the waiter, right? You'd go out there and talk to the table, and in your example was respectful. We don't treat people here that way, and we very much you need to leave, and please don't come back again because of just our value system, right? Without going, you sons of a, right?
Right.
And how you receive information when someone has a bad day changes everything. It can be a learning opportunity, and that is what grows the relationship. Ethical leadership. You get what you promote.
That's right.
You get what you do. You get back who you are and how you bring yourself to what you do. And that's incredible. So I just want to end with the definition one more time. Ethical leadership means both acting ethically and setting the standard for others to do as well. And that's when core values really help. Leaders have an opportunity to inspire others not only to do the right thing, but also to consider the kind of people they want to be. And I think that is huge. So thank you, April, for having this little dilemma conversation.
I know, this was good.
Adding a little dilemma, adding a little drama. Thank you, Alex, for some of the background information you provided to keep us going strong. Appreciate that. And the rest of you have a fantastic week. We'll see you next time on the Dignity Dialogue.
See
you
ya.
later.
This has been the Dignity Dialogue with Joe Kiedinger. Talk at you later.